There's really three ways, right? Of course, you could buy them, you could do the arbitrage model, or you could just start a management side. And I think that's a great way for someone that maybe doesn't have their own capital to get started. So, like, let's say I don't have any money and you have the money. So, you start the Airbnb, I manage it for you. Maybe I charge 10, 15, 25, 30, whatever we arranged. So, I think it's a great way, right? It's just about finding creative ways to get your feet wet, get started, and then you can reinvest your own money to just get into arbitrage or purchasing. So I think it could be a great gig for someone just starting out.
Like I said, there's so many times where it's like you should just do this one thing and do only that, and that's the advice I would give anybody. But for me, I'm just like, I want to do it all. At the end of the day, like it's like I don't want to lose money or ever fail, but if I do, it's like I always say I learned the hard way so you can learn the easy way to my audience, right?
I've never actually talked about arbitrage on I think any of my podcast or any of my YouTubes, because I'm always about buying real estate, right? And I do think that arbitrage is actually a good way to make money starting out. And so I want to dive pretty deep into how it all works for somebody who wants to get started that way. But before we do that, I kind of mentioned that you helped me out with Future Flipper.
Yeah.
You want to kind of tell a little bit of the story? I'll give my version.
Yeah, definitely. So I started my coaching back in like 2018, and I was selling my courses on Udemy for like $10, $15. I had no idea about this high ticket stuff, and nobody was buying it. It was because you didn't own your marketing, you never collected emails and all that stuff. Basically, you create the course and they do the marketing for you. And then I came across this high ticket stuff, created some really good success, and then created a multiple 7-figure business. And in 2019, I started doing a little bit of one-on-one coaching. And I saw on one of your stories, you had mentioned something about coaching, but I could tell that you didn't really have a coaching program yet. I think it was like early 2019. And that's when I reached out to you and I said, hey man, are you looking to build coaching? And you're like, yeah, I don't think you really wanted to do coaching. You were like, yeah, I'm not really into the coaching and courses stuff. I just got my flipping business. And I said, well, if I think we ended up getting on the call. And you're like, well, I don't think I really need the whole coaching. I just have a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got on a call and I just started answering a bunch of questions through DM. You're like, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? And what about when this comes up? And it kind of just turned into that. And I remember around that time, you had done an event in Big Bear where you charged like 5K and you had like, I don't know, 15, 20 people. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to charge Ryan. I'm sure in the future, somehow we can, just support each other. And we just left it at that. And so it kind of just became an open way of supporting each other type of thing.
Yeah. I, to give some context to everyone, I started Future Flipper back in 2018. That was when I made the LLC and stuff. I wrote my book. I made the course, my first course ever. And that was it. I was like, that's good. I wanted things that were automated where, hey, if people want the resources, they can go buy them, but I'm not like promoting them or trying to sell them. They're just there. And, I had my first event at the end of 2018, 10 people. It was $3,000. It sold out in 48 hours and it was great. I was like, wow, that was cool. It was a fun day at my office. People got a ton of value. And many of those people today are like either employees or partners with me. It was weird how all that happened. But then in 2019, when we started talking, I kind of was like still in the same boat. I said, I don't really want to coach, whatever. And towards the end of 2019 was when I think you reached out to me. And I remember vividly because you were an Airbnb guy. And I was actually at my Airbnb in Big Bear when we took the call. And you were like, hey, Ryan, at the time, maybe I had like 10,000 followers or something on Instagram. But you were saying you could definitely make 6 figures a month coaching. You have a lot of people who follow you who would love to do it. You just need to do it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't really want to do it. And mainly the reason I didn't want to do it is because in my mind, I thought you had to do 1-to-1 only.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I just don't have time to do all these one-on-ones. It's just not worth it. And you started telling me about group coaching. You started telling me about different ways you could do coaching and still get students results and all this. And, sure enough, we just kept talking. I was like, okay, that I could do. If we're talking about doing it this way where we have group Zoom calls and we have, events here or there, I can deal with that. That's a lot of fun. And if students are getting great results, I will do it. And so, like you had mentioned, you were kind of like looking at being a consultant for coaches. Right. And like you said, we just said, you know what? If it works out, I'll shout you out and like I'll be your
Right.
best testimony of a
Yeah,
coach.
that's right.
That was the deal.
Yeah.
And now it's 3 years later, and you're getting the testimonial now
There you
of
go.
that, dude, it really did like influence me. It probably influenced me more than anyone to take coaching seriously and
Yeah.
really to push Future Flipper to the level it is today, where we've got thousands of students and this huge community of people. And so if anyone wants to know why Future Flipper is what it is today, is because Jorge cold DM me and sold me on actually being a coach because I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah, it's crazy to see how much you've grown, and of course, your social media and influence, and now you have this, massive community of life changing. I've been networking with some of your students in LA, and it's crazy how much success they've had, all because of Future Flipper. Their lives have completely changed, 180 degrees.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what I'm saying is you played a role in that, and it's cool now because both of our coaching companies have grown
Yeah.
tremendously since that time, and they're both getting students results, and
Yeah.
it's amazing to see. And now we can have higher level conversations about, okay, how do you get to the next level
Yeah.
of it? Because now it's a totally different game,
Yeah.
versus when I was like, man, okay, how do I even start this thing? Now I'm like, how do I scale this thing and still get student results and everything
Yeah.
else?
It's powerful.
Yeah. So, anyways, that gives some context to how Jorge and I met. Let's talk about this Airbnb thing. Before going into how you actually do it and all that, what's been your experience with Airbnb? How did you get into it?
Yeah, great question. So I started buying real estate in 2012, and then in my previous business that I started when I was 20, 15 years ago, I was a professional dance instructor. So I used to teach bachata. You ever heard of that dance?
I remember you telling me that. I don't know what it
Yeah,
is
it's,
though.
it's a sensual partner dance from the Dominican Republic. A lot of people that dance salsa dance bachata.
My wife
Long-
would know. She was a dancer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So long story short, I, traveled to 25 plus countries being like a dance coach, coaching other coaches. So I've always been like a teacher and a coach at heart. That's what I've been doing pretty much my entire adult life.
Right.
And in 2016, one of my dance students told me that her 2 duplexes in Fresno were making 3x her mortgage. I was like, what? Doing this Airbnb thing. So I had a bunch of leases that were ending at the end of 2016. So in March of 2017, I launched my first 4 Airbnbs on properties that I already own. I went from making $6K a month with those 4 to $14K a month, right? $1,500, $3,500. And at the time, I was kind of like stuck in this dance business where I was running the business like a job, trading time for money. And I'm like, man, I was running this nightclub. I had these 2 dance festivals, 3,000 plus people, but I was up till like 4 a.m. almost every day, working like 14-hour days.
Crazy.
And I ended up just really overworking myself because, I believe we're always doing things in order to validate our beliefs to be true. And one of my beliefs back then was that hard work equals success. And so I was basically working super hard to create, quote unquote success. And I ended up herniating a disc in my back and went from not being able to work out, not running, not jogging, not walking. The next thing you know, I'm laying on the floor and I didn't even have health insurance. My wife's like, all right, we got to go to Mexico. So I went to Mexico, TJ, and I got a back surgery in my L5S1. The doctor said it was a 50-50 chance I'd ever walk again. So that happened in 2012. And I was like, man, I need to figure out a way to make an income where I don't have to be like trading time for money. And that's where this whole passive income thing was born. So long story short, in March of 2017, I launched those first 4 Airbnbs, created a multiple 6-figure business. 2018, I launched a coaching business. And then in 2019, I had a student, at the time, all my students were buying property and doing Airbnb. And she's a single mom of 2 kids. She had the income, but not the credit. So she couldn't get qualified for a loan. But she was so committed to creating time freedom. She wanted to spend more time with her kids. So I'm like, look, if you get started, like I will find a way to help you create this time freedom so you can, quit your 9 to 5 and spend more time with your kids. So long story short, I was learning a little bit about this arbitrage strategy. I helped her get a lease. Even though I hadn't done it yet, I was just committed to helping her. And that just opened up my eyes. I'm like, man, this is just a cash flow play. So then me and my partner went and launched like 7 of our own subleases and then took all that cash flow and then started buying real estate. So now we have a portfolio of like $8 million all just in single family. Mostly me and my wife own them. But that's really how the journey began. And now it's like 9 out of 10 of my students start with the arbitrage model. So I thought, because a lot of students actually started using FHA loans and started to do Airbnb, and that's mortgage fraud.
Yeah, you don't do
So,
that.
so I was speaking to my buddy who was doing all the loans, and I'm like, dude, we can get in trouble for this. He's like, yeah, you're right, we can get in trouble. And I'm like, dude, well, what's gonna happen to my coaching business? Everyone's buying and doing that. And so I thought that was going to be the end of it. I wasn't going to be able to coach people anymore. The coaching business was going to go out of business. And then this arbitrage thing just exploded, and my business like 10x'd. So it ended up becoming just the next big thing.
Right. And for those of you, looking at FHA loans and stuff, I mean, this. let me just preface this and say, obviously, neither of us condone mortgage fraud. Yeah. Okay, but I've done YouTube videos before where I've said, look, there's a great strategy of buying a house with an FHA loan. Obviously, like the intent of what you buy the house for is what it is judged on for mortgage fraud, right? Circumstances in life change. If you go and live in it for 6 months, a year, and you're like, look, I want to go buy another house, there's nothing anyone can say to you, right? Like at the end of the day, you wanted to live in it when you bought it, you did, and now you're going to go buy something else and you're going to go make it a rental. Totally cool. So for those of you who might be scared by that and what he's saying, as long as your intent is to live in the home, you'll be fine. Now, if you buy it and your intent right from the get-go is I'm Airbnb-ing this, I'm never going to live in it, then yes, you are committing mortgage fraud, and
exactly,
it's on you. So that's just want to give clarity on that. Now, with the arbitrage model, okay, so explain to people how this works.
Yeah, so the arbitrage model, basically, for anyone that's hearing about this for the first time, it's where you rent a property, get permission in writing from the owner to use it as a short-term rental, and you're in the arbitrage business, right? So say you're renting a property for $3,000, but it makes $6,000, after you pay utilities, cleaning, rent, supplies. The difference is basically your profit. But it is very important to get permission in writing, because otherwise you're in violation of the lease. Like all lease agreements saying no subleasing, right? Because you're supposed to live there. So you need to be able to get some verbiage in there to give you permission, and now you have more of a sustainable, scalable business model.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going in there transparently. Like, look, I'm going to Airbnb this.
Yeah.
I've never subleased in that way, but what I've heard people say is, if an owner pushes back, you give them more.
Right.
Do a lot of your students do that?
Yeah. Some students have offered like an extra $100, $200, or $300, and a lot of times that works. And sometimes the owners say, well, if you're going to be making more money, I want to make more money too.
Right.
Personally, I've never had to do that. I've always
like
paid
a profit
the fair market rent.
Right.
But there's a lot of arrangements. You can give them you can do some type of profit split, give them an extra percentage, give them extra money. As long as the deal still pencils in and you're going to make, $1,500, $2,500, it still makes sense. So
what's the target return? Like you're talking about how you can go lease a place for $3,000, which in some places people are like, that's a lot of money.
Right.
You're in Cali.
Right.
So you're like $3,000 is like
it's nothing.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
But okay, if you're trying to go lease a place in Cali, what's your target, I guess, gross revenue per month?
Our gross revenue is always to get $2 for every dollar we pay in rent. So if you pay $2,000, your goal should be to get 4, 3, 6, 4, 8.
Okay.
Ideally, the goal, like we go for single family homes, so we don't do like apartments or townhomes. It's all single family homes with pools, spas, and like game rooms. We want to be able to create a staycation experience in the home where people can have a great time without needing to leave the home. So these types of single family homes, the goal is to generate $2,000 a month of cash flow after all expenses.
Right. So if it rents for, I guess, a single family home in Cali, what does that rent for?
Yeah, like $4,000.
Okay.
So the goal is to make $8,000, and after you pay expenses, the goal is to make $2,000.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And look, I mean, you get a few of those, you're square.
So we met. I mean, first off, for those who don't know, you are the host of the Bigger Pockets podcast.
That's right. Yeah.
You've got a big YouTube channel. You specialize in Airbnb and tiny homes and cool stuff. I saw you just bought not a tiny home, the opposite of that.
Yeah, a triple dome home in Castle Rock, Denver for $1 million.
Yeah, and you're building some kind of house with 3 pickleball courts.
Yes, yep. In Scottsdale, Arizona. We have a 6,000 square foot mansion with the casita.
Yeah.
And a beautiful house architecturally, but we're figuring out in Scottsdale that if you want to compete with everybody, you got to offer crazy amenities. We were like, the architecture is great, but now we've probably spent about like $22K
Yeah.
on a triple pickleball court, which is it's gonna be cool.
That's fine. I mean, my pickleball court costs like $50K by itself.
What? Really? Dang.
Yeah.
Well, probably would have cost us that, but there was already like a giant sports court that was destroyed like just
okay.
over time, so they came out and resurfaced
Yeah,
it. So
we
about
had
22.
just dirt.
Yeah, nice. Okay, that's why.
So you and I met a few years back because you were on YouTube. I was just we both kind of got onto YouTube around the same time.
Yeah.
And
Do you remember what date you posted your first video?
it was like May of 2020.
Oh, what? Dang, so I think I technically started first. I was January 7th, 2020.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. And I remember like right around that time, somebody was like, "Hey, check out this guy. He's a pretty big YouTuber. He just was talking about your hair." And I was like, "Who's this guy?" And so I watched the video, and you called my hair a coif, and I've never heard that in my life.
A pompadour, coif.
I've heard of a pompadour, but I still don't even know what it is.
It's the poof.
Oh, it's the poof.
Yeah.
I know the poof.
Yeah, it's the poof, the coif, pompadour, whatever you want to call it, man. But I always say, our battle is the coif off.
The coif.
That's what we're gonna call our boxing match next year.
Yep, the coif off. Yep. So, you made some fun of my hair, and you said that your hair was far superior, and I had to comment and say, I mean, it's pretty good, but I don't think it's much of a debate.
I'm going to give you some credit. You have a much better hairline. And so I would pay a lot of money for that hairline.
Yeah.
And maybe one day with technology and modern advancements in the medical industry, maybe I will.
If you make enough money from real estate investing, I think you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, probably. And funny story, I met that guy yesterday. I think his name is Gabe.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, I'm the guy from that video that's you work out with him." Yeah, okay. And he was like, "I'm the guy that sent that video to Ryan." I'm like, "Honestly, dude, in a very funny way, it's like you've changed my life in a way that you don't even know, because it led to us becoming buds and just me meeting people. And it's like kind of crazy how one little funny story like that can lead to me speaking at WealthCon, which has been amazing.
Yeah. So you guys might hear it in the background right now. That's Patty Hilton.
He's great.
Like hyping the crowd up right now. I think some big speakers are coming out. But, bro, I mean, like this is the second event that I've had you speak at. And it's just like I appreciate you coming out and giving people so much value on Airbnb. And it's just great hanging out with you.
Yeah, man. It's fun. I like chopping it up with you. And honestly, dude, it's like your community is so nice. It was very inspiring when I went to the Future Flipper Mastermind a year ago, speaking there. And just remember seeing you talk amongst people. And well, first of all, I saw everybody in there because I do, through my coaching program, Host Camp, it's all digital. And they don't they don't know each other because it's always been digital. And I went to your event, and everybody was like best friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really cool. And then we went to the after party, and you're just there hanging out with everybody, like calculating wholesale deals with guys. And like you knew everybody too. And I was like, man, that's so cool that he knows the students. And so that inspired me to eventually throw my own event. And I was like, why haven't I done this? Like, it's really cool. And now it's a whole nother machine. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like more than double the size.
Yeah. No, I mean, we got over 1,000 people here, and I think we're going to continue to just make them bigger and better and more amazing. So
you want more than 1,000 people?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I want a stadium at some point.
Okay. I see.
Yeah, like I think, why can't we fill up Dodger Stadium at one day?
Man, that's crazy. Good.
It may not be a WealthCon, but I think I could throw an event one day that could do something crazy.
You absolutely can. I've seen what you've done since we've just met, and I'm like, it's very impressive, man. So I think you'll have a stadium much faster than you think.
I appreciate that. So tell me a little bit about, just for everyone who's listening, like your journey, man, because for those who don't know you, I mean, I feel like your career has really just started to like get crazy.
Yeah.
You're in this niche, you're doing so many things. So like, how did it start out?
Yeah, man. So, my wife and I, we were living in Kansas City. I moved there for a job. Back in the day, before I quit my 9-to-5, like 2 years ago, I was an advertising copywriter.
Yep.
So writer as in WRITER. So I wrote ads. And so I wrote for like Gatorade, Hyundai, Sonic, Old Smoky Moonshine, Wiener Schnitzel. Like
so ChatGPT would have took your job.
Eventually. I'm glad I got out while I could. But, I got this opportunity to go write for Gatorade in Kansas City. And so I was like, I told my wife, I was like, are you down to move? And she's like, Kansas City? Are you kidding me? Oh, man. And I was like, no, but the job is going to be cool. And it panned out to be an amazing city. Like, I loved it. But there was one problem, and it's that we were really broke, like really
That's
really
usually
broke.
the problem.
And so, I mean, I was making like 40 grand, and she was nannying and making like $12 an hour or something before she became a teacher eventually. And man, dude, after like we had like $80,000 in student loan debt, we had like $20,000 in credit card debt, and so we were paying rent at this apartment, and I was like, let's just buy a house. Like it's pretty much the same price. It'll be $1,000 a month versus the $800 that we're spending now. And so she was like, okay, I mean, if you think we can afford it. I was like, no, we can't. And the only reason I could afford it was because my tax return that year was like $5,000, just enough for the down payment.
Yeah.
They should not have given me this house. Like it was dumb from the underwriter's perspective. Like we were really broke.
Yeah.
But we got it, and we bought this house, and I convinced a friend to move up to the city and work at the same agency. He paid me $400 a month to live in a room. And I remember I got that first Venmo for $400, and I was like, I am rich.
That's a lot of Chipotle.
Yeah, it's a lot of Chipotle, right? And so that was at the time where I liked Chipotle so much, but I couldn't actually afford the meal. I just got the rice. And I would get the double rice, which was $1.67 at the time. And if I wanted sour cream, it was an extra 50 cents.
No,
that's when I was
that's
bougie.
not a serious thing, right?
No, I'm serious.
You would only eat rice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you paid $1.67 for rice.
For like a bowl of rice, yeah. And then when I felt super bougie, I'd get the $7 meal, you know?
Well,
so
that $7 meal is like 10 now.
yeah, it is. It's $16 if you want the double steak. It's crazy. Yeah. And so we didn't have a ton of money after bills. We had less than $1,000. So we had enough to like do things, but we were never saving. And eventually we sold this house 2 years later, and it went from $159,000 to $215K. So we sell it. We have $40,000.
Most money ever.
So much. And my wife was like, we should pay off half of the student loans. And I was like, well, even if we pay off half, the student, like the amount every month is the same.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think we should keep it. And so she was like, no, we pay. I was like, no, let's keep it, please. Like, I believe that something with this money will happen. So we were like, all right, well, we're really broke. What should we do? And we're like, hey, what if we move to LA?
That's smart.
That should work. So we moved to LA. And with that 40 grand, we ended up putting a down payment on our house.
Okay.
But before we bought that house, we were living in an apartment, 666 square feet. Very specific, I know, because we were
crazy.
like, yeah, we're just like, okay, $1,850. Did that for 6 months, and I was like, dude, I can't do this again. I gotta build equity. And I was like, let's buy a house.
Yeah.
And so my wife was like, well, what are we gonna do with the apartment? And I was like, well, there's this website. You can like put your house on it, and people, like strangers, will pay you to sleep in your apartment, right? And obviously it's Airbnb, but she was like, are you sure this is going to work? And I was like, no, definitely not. But I've heard of it. And people are making money doing this. And so she was like, okay, if you say so. We buy this house, $624,000, 4 times the amount of the house that we had just sold. And my wife was like, are you sure we can afford this? I was like, no, I'm not. But I think, there's this little 279 square foot studio apartment underneath. And I was like, I was looking at calendars, and I think we can make $2,000 to $3,000 a month renting that. And our mortgage was $4,400. So I calculated, if I make $1,000 to $2,000 on that apartment,
Yeah.
and $2,000 to $3,000 in the studio that's under the house, we won't have to pay a mortgage. That's exactly what happened. And so once I got that first like reservation, it was like $1,400 at that apartment. Everything's on the line, right? Because I'm like, if I don't book this, I'm gonna have to pay $1,800 out of my pocket every month.
Yeah.
And I was like scared, but I was like, I believed in it, and get a $1,400 reservation, jumping for joy. I'm like, man, I got 2 weeks to do it again, and I can make like $1,000, And the guy's gonna check in, cancels his reservation an hour before, because I didn't know about cancellation policies, and I was just like, we are bankrupt. Like I was like, oh my goodness. And so an hour later, someone booked it for $1,500, and I was like, I think this is gonna work. And then someone booked that studio apartment under my house for like a $1,500 reservation for like a month or something. And I was like, all right, I think this is where I'm gonna become a millionaire. And so that was really the start of it, because I told myself, if I did this 10 times, I could make like $10,000 a month, and that was always my goal.
Yeah. That's amazing, bro. So, you figure this real estate thing out. What point do you start making YouTubes about it?
Yeah. Okay. So I started this YouTube channel. I went to lunch on December 23rd at my job with 3 friends. It was the day before we broke for Christmas. And we're all talking, and they're talking about like Casey Neistat or something, and they're like, man, YouTubers make a lot of money. And I was like, I've always wanted to start a channel for like 10 years. And they're like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to do like this weird, wacky, like kind of just funny version of a do-it-yourself channel. And literally they were all eating and they all stopped and they were like, you should do that, like at the exact same time. And I was like, yeah, do you think it would be good? And they were like, yeah, dude, that sounds amazing. And so I was like, okay. And so I shot my first video a week later, posted it a week after that on January 7th of 2020. And it was bad. It was really bad. And it was all DIY. It was me doing projects around the house.
Yeah.
I was editing my own videos. And, I just, the third video I ever made, I decided to change up the DIY thing just for one time. So I got my iPhone on a tripod and I like walk out to the backyard where I had built a tiny house. And my wife's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm going to be a vlogger, babe. She's like, what are you going to vlog about? I was like, I don't know, maybe the tiny house? And so I go out there, I set it up. It was framed. I always say it's nips up. It was like literally like from here up. It was so bad. And then I posted it, and dude, it literally got dozens of views. So it's like whatever. So I keep posting DIY stuff. And 6 months later, really random story. I think I've scientifically calculated how this happened, but 6 months later, that video, the tiny house vlog, started getting like, instead of like a view a week, it was getting like 2,000 views an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I have done it. I am viral, And I was like, oh my goodness. And what happened was I sent that video to the guy who designed the house. He has like a little tiny house design website, and he's got an email list of maybe like 20, 30,000 people or something. I was like, hey dude, I just wanted you to see that I actually ended up building this house. What do you think? He's like, dude, can I send it to my email list? And I was like, yeah, sure. So he sends it to this email list, and because all these tiny house people, they love tiny houses, they watch the entire video. And so that kicked off in the algorithm in the whole like tiny house community.
Wow.
And so I was a little bummed though, because it wasn't my DIY video. I had spent so much time trying to make
that.
Yeah. I was like, I got a nice camera. I had started editing for real. And before, that video was like an iPhone video. And that video like sucked. And like the other videos weren't going viral. And I was like really bummed about it, because it's just like, man, I guess my dream won't
You know
work.
what's funny? Like for me, when I got started during that time, like, I was making videos and they're doing pretty good. Like I started off getting, like 500 views, then 1,000 views. And like I was consistently getting around there. And then my first viral video was my couch flipping video.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wait. I'm telling you guys how to make like generational wealth, flipping or wholesaling or buying rentals. And my couch flipping video was the one that pops off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess I'm going to have to make more videos on couch flipping. I guess I'm going to have to make more side hustle videos. And those are, to this day, still my best videos.
Yeah.
And it's not like I only do that. Like I could have, been like, I guess I'm just going to do that. But, I enjoy doing them. But it's just funny because you never know what's going to pop off.
Yeah, you don't get to choose.
Yeah.
The YouTube gods choose. And, I was kind of bummed about it, because I told my friend, I was like, I'm going viral, I guess. It's cool. And I'm like kind of bummed. And he was like, what are you sad about? And I was like, well, just tiny house content is so boring. Like everyone in the space is just very vanilla.
Yeah.
And real estate is boring, and Airbnb is boring, And he was like, well, what if you did the DIY thing where you want to be weird and wacky, but you do the tiny house Airbnb version of it?
Yeah.
And maybe you could be the first person that's not boring. And I was like, maybe I could be the first person that you're onto something, I think. And so that day I was like, you know what? That's cool. I think I do have something to teach. And so I recorded this follow-up video of my other tiny house that I built in Joshua Tree, 2.5 hours away from there.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I guess I got to get the momentum, keep it going. And so I go out there and I shoot it and I edit it. This is, takes me 16, 20 hours to edit a video.
Yeah.
And I schedule it to go live at 8 a.m. And I would go to sleep and I wake up at like 8:20 and it's got like 2,500 views.
Yeah.
And I like shook my wife. I was like, wake up. I did it again. I've gone viral. And, about 2 or 3 days after that, YouTube made me Creator on the Rise, where they basically feature me on the homepage
really?
for like a whole day. And it was kind of crazy because My life goal with YouTube was to get 1,000 subscribers. Literally, that was my dream. And that happened 6 months to the day. The day I got monetized was 6 months to the day that I started. And then I was like, all right, I guess my next goal is 5,000 in the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I got 5,000 a week later. And then a week after that, it was like 25,000 because YouTube made me Creator on the Rise. And that was the day that I was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is who I'm going to be.
Wow. What year was that?
This was like 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2020. Like 6 months after I started the channel.
That's crazy. And then how many subscribers did you get like at the end of 2020? Where were you at?
I think I was just shy of 100K.
Yeah.
Just shy of 100K. I was always just a little behind you. It's
Yeah.
like, I gotta get more. I can't let them have better hair and more subscribers. And so it just kind of turned out to be this thing where I started talking about Airbnb and,
How many subs do you have now?
maybe like 245, 250, somewhere in there.
I've got you a
So
little
yeah,
bit.
he's still behind you for now.
For now.
And so I started
it is
doing
harder
that.
to grow now, though. Like, I found that it's just kind of like the growth is much slower now once you get higher up.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of weird. YouTube is like, this is my worst month probably in like a year, to be honest. Happens all the time where all your stats are cut in half. And then one day you post a video and it gets 400,000 views and you're back. And you're like,
back, baby.
am a YouTube god, and it's like, that's how it is. It's like YouTube is the one thing that like builds you up and then brings you down so fast when you make your favorite video and you're like, this is the best video on YouTube, and you post it, it's like 1 view and it's your mom. So it is a little bit slower sometimes, but I still really like it. And I saw this opportunity with my YouTube channel. Like, I was like, people were asking me questions, hitting me up.
Yeah.
And at first it was very flattering. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Let's meet for coffee, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Hey, can I pick your brain?
Yep.
Sure. And then all of a sudden, this guy, he's like a friend of a brother of my friend. And he says, hey man, I think you have a lot of potential on YouTube. He's like, I'm a YouTuber. I think I could help you, man. We should chat sometime. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, let's do it. When do you want to meet? He's like, well, I'm gonna have to charge you $150 an hour though. Is that cool? And I was like, you reached out to me. No, it's not cool. I was like, just so annoyed.
Yeah.
And, but I walked away from that conversation thinking, man, maybe I could charge $150 an hour to teach people stuff. Not the way he did it, but I said it on YouTube. I made a video. I was like, hey, by the way, I do consultations now. And so I started charging $150 an hour.
Yeah.
And I started booking out a week in advance and then a month in advance. And then I consulted a consultant who was like, dude, if you're booked 100%, you're too cheap.
Yep.
And so he was like, raise your rates. So then I raised it to 200, then 300, then 400, then $500 an hour.
Yeah.
And very quickly, I was like, $500 an hour is $1 million a year. Why am I still working my W-2 job? All this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I consulted this guy who was like, dude, why don't you make a course? And I was like, get out of here with that. Why would I want to do? He's like, dude, I took this Airbnb course. I paid $2,000 for it and it sucked. Yeah. He was like, what you have to teach is so much better. I promise you. And I was like, I thank you, but no thank you. His name is Michael Wynn. I won't ever forget it because he changed my life just by telling me that. So I got to bed and I was like, maybe he's right, and I started thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that was like really the beginning of like what would eventually become like my education business.
That's amazing, bro.
What are some things to look for with this? I mean, I imagine you don't want to be in HOAs.
Absolutely. The only place I've seen that's like HOA friendly is like Florida, most of Florida, but almost anywhere else, you got to run. I feel like HOA communities are like, which is not very friendly towards short-term rentals. They make their own rules.
Yeah, which is why you stay away from apartments and condos and those things.
Right, because even if the city says you can get a permit, the HOA can say, well, we don't allow it, period.
Mm-hmm.
But there's really like three main components. It's data, regulation, and the contract, right? So when it comes to the data, it's like looking at comps. So we use AirDNA to look at projected revenues. We use MashVisor to look at current revenue and occupancy of any Airbnb in the US. AirDNA works worldwide. And that's how we know if there's a lot of potential, if there's already properties making the expected returns that you want.
Right.
And then two, which is also very important, it's probably the first place I would start is regulation, making sure that the city would allow you to get a permit.
Vegas sucks, man. I'm sure you get students
sucks
in Vegas all the time that are just like, what do I do?
They're like, I want to do it in Vegas, but I can't do it in Vegas. And I know for a while I had a ton of students in Henderson, but now it looks like they're doing this lottery system. So it's
impossible.
So difficult.
Yeah.
It's basically like impossible. I spoke to the Bokley brothers?
Bokley brothers, yeah.
And they have like 5 properties that they're going to sell because they can't do it anymore.
Right.
So yeah, regulation is super, super important. I used to go into a lot of areas where you didn't even need a permit, but then when and if they implement a regulation, it could totally be out of your favor, kind of like Henderson. So right now, I feel the safest place and the only place people should go is where you can get a permit, where it's regulated. They say get a permit. Here are the rules.
Just follow the rules.
Just follow the rules.
I can say that too. So I have my Airbnbs in Big Bear. We have 10 units, and we just have had issues over issues whenever we don't follow the rules. Like I've been fined $8,000, like on a fine,
On one fine?
On one fine.
Wow.
Multiple times.
Wow.
And some were justified, some were not. But even the ones that were not, it's still the way they do it. They're like, you have to pay your $8,000 and then you can appeal.
Right. That's crazy.
I'm like, this is stupid. And it was totally unjustified.
Guilty until proven innocent.
Yep.
Terrible.
And I think on the big fines, we've always gotten them back, but I've gotten little fines, $1,000, $1,500 for, dude, I don't even know. I can't even remember. Like, but what's happened with Big Bear, and this is what someone needs to pay attention to too, is like, what is the trend of regulation doing too? Because when I first got into Big Bear in 2017, it was very different than it is today.
Right.
Like they're trying to go harder and harder and harder and limit. It seems like everyone wants to limit.
Right.
What do you think about that? Like what's the play for Airbnb long term? What do you think these cities and regulations are going to do?
I think a lot of cities, what I'm seeing right now, there's a couple cities that are doing something similar where they're doing these lottery systems, and they're going to give X amount of permits. So for example, in San Diego, they're going to allow 1% of all inventory in San Diego to be a short-term rental. But if you're on the beach, which is like Mission Beach, 30% of the inventory can be short-term rentals. Long Beach did something similar, LA, Anaheim. So I think a lot of cities are going to say, all right, I'm going to allow like 1 to 5% or 1 to 3% of inventory. Because I understand, I mean, if you're in a residential area, they don't want all the properties to be short-term rentals. And then, it'll just make the housing shortage situation even more challenging.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because I'm trying to look at it from an objective point of view. And I've thought a lot about this. On one hand, as a capitalist, I'm like, free market.
Absolutely.
Whoever wants to buy it, buys it, That is what it is. On the other hand, I think about quality of life of people, and I agree. If you have a house and everyone around you is Airbnb-ing a property, it's like you probably don't want to live there, right?
Yeah.
But then I think about it and I say, well, okay, if you did allow capitalism to do what it does, and that does happen in certain neighborhoods, well, you can sell, you can move, and go to an HOA where there's no Airbnb allowed, period.
Right.
And that's kind of how I'm starting to think about it. I'm like, nobody makes anyone live anywhere. If you don't like that everything around you is turning into rentals and Airbnbs, move and go to an HOA where it's totally not allowed.
Yeah, I think what recently Airbnb implemented a new policy where they're like banning all types of parties, which is great. We've never allowed parties or events, and we have like quiet hours and all this stuff because these are the people that disturb the neighbors anyway. So we really cater to like professionals, nurses, corporate housing, people that are using our properties to relocate if they had some type of damage. We've even had people, government bookings for people that were seeking like political asylum from their country, just all kinds of stuff, but people that really just want to have a party, like we've always been against that. Like we don't like it. We know it's not good for the neighborhoods. We want to create
good for your property.
Relationship. Exactly. It's not good for your property. So now that they've banned that, and now you have, in a lot of areas, you actually have to be 25 or older to book on Airbnb, which I think is great because most of the time people that throw parties are under 25.
Idiots. Yeah. Yep. No, it makes sense. Well, and that's good that it's legal that they can do that. I mean, I guess driving a rental car is the same way.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Okay, let's just say you're doing arbitrage, right? Most of the leases are a year.
Right.
How do you get around that? Because you spend all this time and money furnishing it.
Yeah.
Like, and then they're like, yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
We don't want you. How does that play out?
Yeah, it's a good question. That can definitely happen, right? Somebody might want to sell their property. They want to move back in, or they want to do something else. There's also a lot of landlords, right? Being a landlord yourself, maybe you can agree that once a lease is over, you don't want to have to do some, renovations, take it off, off the rental market, put it back on the rental market, miss out on one or two mortgage payments. So for us, as long as we've taken care of the property, had a great relationship with the neighbors, we've renewed like 100% of our leases since we started the arbitrage side 3 years ago. And so that's worked out really good. And a lot of times these landlords, they do want to secure a 2-year lease or a 3-year lease just because they want to secure their tenants too. So I think there's always going to be both sides. Some people that maybe want to sell, some
Right.
people that want to just continue. And I think it's just going to be a numbers game like all real estate.
Yeah, I was just wondering if maybe you were wanting to sign 2-3 year leases just because you're putting all the furniture
Right.
and all this into it.
I would absolutely, and I have done it before, and I think it's better. You don't want to. It's obviously a lot of work when you're launching an Airbnb, especially when you're getting started and you're like that 9 to 5er, and you don't have a ton of money to have somebody just launch it. Like I literally will find the property, and my team will do everything all the way to listing it for me. But for people who are just getting started, they often launch it themselves. It's a lot of work. It could take 7 days, 10 days to launch an Airbnb. You don't want to take it off the market after a year. So renewing would definitely be the goal.
I've launched almost all my Airbnbs. I mean, this was years ago. I haven't started a new Airbnb in a while. But it was like, yeah, my wife and I literally drove to Big Bear from Vegas with
Wow.
a cart full of furniture because Big Bear doesn't really have
Right.
furniture stores. It's very remote. So I would buy everything in Vegas. We went to RC Willie. Shout out to RC Willie. They should sponsor this, by the way. And I would go, we would just bring up this truck full of
That's
stuff
crazy.
and we would furnish it for a weekend. And yeah, everyone she furnished. And
It's a lot
it's a lot of work, dude. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
like
that's
you
how it
said.
was when we launched our first maybe 8. Man, my wife did all the decor. She would go to a Home Goods, all the stores, and man, it was a lot of work. Once you started having kids, it was like, man, she can't do it anymore. So I just started hiring somebody. So now my team will like create the Excel document with the furniture, appliances, decor, supplies. We'll order it, put everything inside, be there when it gets assembled, be there for the photography, and then literally create the listing. So it costs more money, but I rather, buy other people's time.
Yeah, no, 100%. Actually, I take that back. We did furnish one recently that I was going to flip in Big Bear. Speaking of regulations, this property took 2 years to get renovated because of the city flagged it. Then during COVID, they don't allow you to get permits and all this stuff. It just took forever. And then finally I listed it and it was sitting on the market. I said, you know what? I'm just going to keep it. There's no,
Right.
oh, actually, you know what happened? Because Big Bear likes to play games with me, and we're both like, it's just this thing. I've been told many times, like, dude, you're like literally public enemy #1 on Big Bear's.
They've known you for like
Yeah.
5 years, right?
Well, and I just talk about it all the time, and they get pissed because it's just bringing more people to the market. But they've got a wanted poster somewhere, and basically what happened was, they made the new rule saying, hey, you can't apply for any more permits. Like it's going to be
That's
one
crazy.
one permit per person. It wasn't just for me, but it was just like one permit per investor. And so and they said everything that anyone's got to this point is grandfathered in. So I already had all mine, right? So I was like, oh well, I guess I have to sell. I can't.
Right.
And we had applied for a permit before that rule, and nothing ever happened with it. I was like, crap. Well, if Big Bear is seasonal, so the winters are what crushes it. And so, unfortunately, I couldn't take advantage of the winter. I would have probably made like freaking a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it sits through the winter. My listing doesn't sell for what I want it to sell for and everything. Well, around freaking March, I get this email from Big Bear, and they're like, "Oh, you know what? Because you did the permit before we said that, you can actually still get it." And I'm like, "Okay, you didn't want to tell me this 7 months ago before the winter when I would have made, $100,000." Like, so
Crazy.
that's what I deal with. But anyways, I don't even know why I told that story. Oh, the reason I told that story was because once they said we could do it, we applied, and I was like, I'm not going back up there to furnish that thing. So I sent someone else, and
There you go.
it's good.
That's the way to do it. Just delegate it.
I don't even know what my Big Bear or my Airbnbs are making. I'm gonna look it up while we talk.
Yeah.
I haven't looked in a long time.
That'd be interesting to see. You have somebody out there who manages them local.
No, not even local. My property manager here in Vegas, I trained her how to do it back
Okay.
years ago, and
Nice.
she just crushes it. And now she does management for all my people out there, like in Joshua Tree and Big Bear.
Yeah,
She's got her own
nice.
like management gig
There
going
you
really
go.
nice.
That's awesome.
Actually, speaking of management gigs, what do you think about that? Like what about just managing other people so you're not putting up the capital?
Yeah, I think that's, there's really three ways, right? Of course, you could buy them, you could do the arbitrage model, or you could just start a management side. And I think that's a great way for someone that maybe doesn't have their own capital to get started. So like, let's say I don't have any money and you have the money. So you start the Airbnb, I manage it for you. Maybe I charge 10, 15, 25, 30, whatever we arrange, 20% of the gross revenue. If the property's making 10K gross and I make 20%, hey, that's 2K a year, 2K a month, 24K a year. So I think it's a great way, right? It's just about finding creative ways to, get your feet wet, get started, and then you can reinvest your own money to just get into arbitrage or purchasing. So I think it could be a great gig for someone just starting out.
Yeah. What would a manager make?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first, the three operations, right? People are like, what does that entail? What are they going to be responsible for? Well, there's really three operations in the Airbnb business. No matter if you own it, sublease it, or manage it, you're going to oversee cleaning, maintenance, and communication. So they'll be overseeing those three things. And the only two people that ever need to be there in person, right, is whoever cleans it and whoever does maintenance from time to time. All the communications, just like your manager, can be virtual. So they could literally be anywhere in the world and run the business. But I think 20% is probably a good place to start. So it would just be 20% of the gross revenue. If the property is making 5K a month, then that's 1K. If it's 10K, then it's 2K a month. But then they can continue to just, build upon that. And the great thing is, as a manager, they're not going to have any expenses until they start hiring people to be able to grow. But if they're just managing 3 or 4 or 5, they can do it themselves and it'll just be all profit for them.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the numbers now. In the last 365 days, we've had over 2,000 nights booked, 489K in revenue, 91% occupancy. So really high occupancy. The average length of stay is 2 days. What do you think?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
This is my bigger portfolio here. You can see the last 365 days.
Yeah, you got 1.2 million. Your 5 stars are way better than mine. You got it says 81% 5-star rating in the last 82%. Mine was like 65%. So
yeah, we've acquired more recently, so we should do about 2 mil this year gross revenue.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Maybe like a 30% profit margin.
And how many properties is that over?
18.
Nice.
So we have 8 that we own, 7 that we sublease, and then 3 that we manage.
Got it. So, okay, property management's a way to make money in Airbnb. Arbitrage is a way to make money in Airbnb. And then obviously buying it like I've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is that just the goal for most people?
I believe it should be. Like I tell all my students or just anybody on social media that I believe it should be everyone's goal to own as much real estate because of course you get the cash flow appreciation, depreciation, mortgage pay down, all the taxes. Like you get all the benefits and there's nothing like ultimately owning.
Right.
And if you can go in there and go straight into owning, I think that's the way to do it. But if they're not in a position to buy, subleasing or management is a great way to get their feet wet and start building up that passive income to replace your 9-to-5.
Right. No, totally agree. I think, look, I'm a big proponent of doing everything to increase your active income. And so whether that's wholesaling real estate, flipping real estate, arbitrage, becoming an influencer, doing stuff in e-com, doing stuff in any kind of skill set, that couch flipping, I'm down with all of it. But eventually, once you make enough active income, you got to figure out how to offset taxes, how to build long-term wealth. And
that's where the ownership comes in.
Yeah. Real estate for me is the best by far.
So you end up, starting education, you're doing YouTube, cranking, and eventually you get approached by Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
And, obviously for those who don't know, Bigger Pockets is like still probably to this day the biggest real estate podcast.
It is. It's the biggest, the baddest, the realest real estate podcast in the world.
Well, it's only because I choose not to be a real estate podcast.
That's right.
But
you got to let me have this one thing, man.
Regardless of that, Bigger Pockets changed my life. I started listening to the podcast back in 2014, And I mean, to have that longevity 10 years later is pretty amazing. And especially too, seeing like, you know, Brandon Turner was the face and the host of it for so long, and he's a good buddy of mine. And, you know, he leaves, and then they got to figure out who to replace him with.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened was, you know, I'm hitting all these. This is the crazy thing about YouTube and content is that if you're good at something, you'll hit all your goals, your life goals.
Right.
I was hitting all my life goals. You know, for a long time, my life goal is to be a millionaire. And then one day I like started mapping out my equity, and I was like, oh, I'm a millionaire. I was like, oh, okay, now what, you know? But then the YouTube thing started happening. It was like 1,000, and then 5,000 subscribers would be great. And, you know, so it's like this crazy thing where everything I ever wanted was like coming true or coming to fruition. But my big goal in life, like I could retire if this happened, was to become a guest on the Bigger Pockets podcast. And so they reach out to me and they're like, we'd love for you to be a guest. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've done it. I did it. Like I like my YouTube hard work has paid off. I was so like excited. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to chop it up with David and Brandon. They're going to ask me this. I'm going to talk about this.
I got my famous four already.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Which I'm going to reveal a fact about that in a second. But none of the stuff that I thought they were going to ask me about YouTube and be like, man, so your YouTube presence, it's so cool and blah, blah. And they're, you know, it just didn't go according to plan. And I remember being like really bummed. I was just like, man, that sucked, you know? And it was just like a bummer because I was just like, I feel like I flubbed in front of my heroes. And so whatever, I close the laptop and I'm like, well, maybe when I make more money in real estate and I crush it more, maybe they'll have me on again and I can like have a second chance. And then it came out, and Tony Robinson, he's like the co-host of the Rookie podcast, Bigger Pockets Network. And he was like, dude, that was amazing. He was like, that's one of the best podcasts I've ever heard. And all these people were like tagging me and they're like, this is like life-changing and stuff. Yeah. And I was just like, man, that's crazy, because I thought it sucked, you know? Yeah. But it just, we're so hard on ourselves as content creators.
Right.
But the famous four thing is like they ask you, what's your favorite real estate book?
Yeah.
And I have never read one before at that point. So I was like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? And they're like, yep, that's a good one. And it's like funny because when we ask people on the podcast, it's always, no, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? And I was like, I know what you're doing.
You've never read a book.
Yeah, I've only read the Burr book, and I'm thumbing through Wealthy Way right now every night. But yeah, man, so that was I was like, I did it though. I was like, that's still cool. I was like, man, all right, I'm going to end this year on a high note. Then I moved to Tennessee to start building a tiny house village. At this time, HGTV approaches me about shooting a pilot, and the pilot is going on. We're shooting it. We're given the budget, and I decide I don't really love it. I'm like, having a TV show sounded cool, but it's too much work.
Yeah.
They asked too much of me before the show is even approved.
Right.
And I was like, I already have a TV show. But, you know, I'm like, well, I'm not going to, I'm too far in to like just walk away, right? But then Bigger Pockets reaches out, and they're like, hey, Brandon Turner's leaving. Would you be interested in perhaps being the fill-in?
Yeah.
And I was like, the moment they asked me that, I was like, oh my, I was like, I don't want this show. I was like, yeah, right. You know, whatever, they pass. I'm like so happy that it didn't go through, because the idea of becoming the host of the Bigger Pockets podcast was like not even a dream, because I didn't know that it was possible.
Right.
It was as possible as someone being like, do you want to buy Pluto? And it's like, that's not something you can do. And so, yeah, I mean, they have me kind of audition a few times, and eventually they offered me the role. And I was like, I honestly still don't believe it. You know, it's been a year.
And now you're making the big bucks.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm the titular co-host of the show. I always say that. It's like, it really is cool, and it's like really cool. You know where I really make the money on that is that I get to interview the smartest people in the world about how successful they are in real estate, and it just fires me up every episode. Like, you know, I've interviewed you, Cody Sanchez, Alex Hormozy. I interviewed Barbara Corcoran yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, dude, listening to you guys and listening to people that are crushing it, man, I'm just like, I'm so thankful, because it's going to really be the foundation of my empire.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. The show we did was great. Man, I don't even remember when it was.
It was kind of over NFTs and digital real estate.
It's probably about a year ago almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the first time I was on the show back in 2018. Like, that was a dream come true for me.
Were you nervous?
Yeah, I was actually very nervous. If you listen to that first episode, you could hear kind of like the nervousness in my voice. But also too, back then, I wasn't a trained actor that I am today.
Of the theater.
well versed in acting now. And then I came back on their show maybe in 2020 or something because they wanted to learn about TikTok because I was crushing it on TikTok.
So you've been on the show 3 times?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
What's the record?
That's a good question. I'd probably say like 5 or 6. If you're taking out all the co-hosts and like yeah, probably like 5 or 6 for just someone that's like not part of the network.
Okay, I should do that.
Yeah.
All right,
I'll make it happen.
We'll do it again.
I know a guy.
I know. He's the host. But no, it was cool because I mean, just like it's such a great show and it's changed so many lives. It's funny because we've gone through a lot of the same things. Like I remember I was getting pitched for a TV show and it was down to me and 2 others, and then they wanted me to film a pilot, and I was like, we haven't even talked numbers or like anything.
Well, and they're very disappointing.
Oh yeah, and they're
best
like,
case you're talking like $5,000 an episode. or something.
And like a 70-hour week commitment.
Oh yeah, 14-hour shoot days for sure.
I was like, so tell me like, what do we have any of this before I go waste my time filming a pilot? They're like, well, you got to do this first as part of the process, and I'm like, you know what, I'm good.
Yeah,
like I'm not gonna do this.
Yeah, because
And
you're already a content creator.
yeah,
Let's
I was
question
already
it.
like, I was like, I'll just make my own videos. And that show ended up becoming Pace Morby's show.
Oh
And-
wow, that's
Yep.
a good one.
So that became Triple Digit Flip, and super happy for Pace. And then with the Bigger Pockets thing, when I remember I forget who had called me, but he was like, hey, Brandon's going to be leaving, and we're looking for fill-in host and different things. Do you want to potentially fill in and all these things? And I remember telling him, I was like, hey, so like I'm a guru, right? Like
a guru.
Yeah. Like Bigger Pockets has for the longest time been anti-guru and coaching and everything else. I was like,
They're coming around a little bit though. They're coming around.
they are. And he said that back then too. He was like, like we get it now. Like it's different today than it was when we first started. And, I had already had my podcast started too. And I was like, honestly, like I'm happy to fill in as like a guest host, but I wouldn't be a permanent solution.
Sure.
I'm trying to grow this podcast.
Yeah, totally.
And to see you get it was great because I'm like, dude, like
Pineda Light or Pineda Plus, as we say.
They basically got it.
Yeah, they got it. They got it. A much less cool, successful, much worse hairline version of Pineda. Yeah.
No, they got a much funnier version though.
Yeah. I'd say so. I mean, I have to pre-write my jokes and I practice them in the mirror before every episode. And we edit all of them out.
Who's been your favorite guest you've interviewed?
Dude, I think it's I think after yesterday's, I think it could be Barbara Corcoran.
Really?
Yeah, dude. She is like the sweetest,
Are you sure it's not just because that was the last interview you had?
No, because so it really does rank, and granted, you guys are all my friends, but it's probably previous to yesterday, top 3 were you, Hormozy, and Cody for sure.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, really, because it's really fun to bring people on that are titans that don't talk about real estate, but talk about the principles that can help you crush it in real estate because it's really refreshing,
Yeah.
But Barbara, she is just this amazing character where, I grew up watching Shark Tank and I got the invite to do the podcast on my calendar and I texted my producer immediately and I was like, holy crap, you got Barbara Corcoran? He's like, you've never texted me so fast in my life. And I'm like, I love her. And what was really cool was that she was the same before the recording and after, where you get people that come in and not necessarily just
flip
Bigger
the
Pockets.
switch.
Yeah, exactly, right? They like they're like, hey, how's it going? And then it's like record and they're like, woo, and it's like because we're tired and we got to get in character and all that stuff. I feel like I'm always the same, and she was the same.
Yeah.
She was like this amazing, funny person, tells her story, and I really I ended that podcast just thinking like that was really cool. That was it. Like if I can get like Kevin O'Leary would be another one that would really freak out over if he could come on the show. Actually,
Have you guys tried to get him?
well, I think he's coming on to the Bigger Pockets Money podcast. So because of that, I don't know if we can get him for both. But the other one that they've interviewed before was Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
And I would probably lose it if I interviewed Matthew McConaughey. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Big fan.
Yeah. How do you feel? So like for me I'm a real estate guy, obviously, but I knew I didn't want to have a real estate podcast just because I have like interest in lots of things. And also I get bored talking about real estate nonstop. So how is it sometimes when you're interviewing guests? Cause in my mind, I'm like, yeah, you flipped a house. Yep.
and you did it again. You cashed out?
You fixed it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. So that's a really good question. If I'm being honest, like in my humble opinion, I'm not that great yet, you know? And so I will be. I really think I will be. I know I will be. But when they asked me to be the host, I was like, are you sure you got the right guy? I was like, you
had some imposter syndrome?
Absolutely. I still do. I mean, Brandon Turner is like the god of real estate, you know? He's big shoes to fill, metaphorically and literally.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was just like, why? I don't understand. Like, I was like, look, I don't want to like sandbag myself. I just tell me what about me, you know? And they were just like, you know, when Brandon started the show, he hadn't really done much yet.
Yeah.
But through the 7 years or 8 years that he was on the show, he became Brandon Turner. And they're like, we think that, you know, you have really great charismatic, you know, personality and you're positive. You've started and we know that you're going to go places and we want to see you do it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was honestly just like, I mean, like the sweetest thing ever. You know, I was just like, really? Me? Yeah. Thanks, guys. And so,
you know what? I'll work for free.
And so I kind of feel like now I just want to do everything, man. I'm so at the point where if I was smart, I would just focus on Airbnb and that's all I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But I feel it's my job and my duty to go out and do home flips, wholesaling, creative financing, apartment buildings.
Just to give yourself more knowledge.
Just to fail at it. To fail at it, to suck at it, to become good at it. So I have something to bring to the table.
Right.
So at this point, I'm still eating it up, man, because like every guest that we have, I'm just like, that's so crazy. That's crazy that they did that doing this job.
Yeah.
You know, like, for example, we had a guest on last week who was making like $5 minimum wage for like many years. And now she's a multi-millionaire. She was a preschool teacher.
Wow.
And so, and her husband was a social worker. And so like he was making not a lot either.
Yeah.
And they've done it. And so when I see how people have become millionaires, you know, I'm similar in that I became a millionaire with not a lot of money, but it's cool to see it over and over and over and over again because it just shows that it's really possible. So no, I'm really not. I eat it up, man.
Yeah.
I get really fired up because I'll close the thing and I'm like, guess I'm buying a duplex and house hacking again because it's just cool, man.
Yeah. Do you find yourself always wanting to change your strategy?
Yes.
Just hearing them all the time. You're like, you know what? Airbnb is. I'm done with this.
I still want to do it because that's my audience and that's who,
Yeah.
you know, who gave me what I have.
Yeah.
And so it's always going to be my duty to do that. Like that is number one passion. But I think now that I have the Bigger Pockets platform, I want to make $1 million doing everything. Like I just was thinking today, what if I started this YouTube series that I want to make $1 million wholesaling. I want to make $1 million flipping. I want to make $1 million creative financing.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm going to do it because I think I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
I'm too young and too good looking to not do it. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I just think it's time to really heavy up and I want to do everything.
Yeah. How old are you now?
33.
Same age.
Yeah.
Wait, when's your birthday?
December 19th.
Okay. So I got you there too.
Dang it, you always do. You always one up me.
April 17th.
Yeah, man. Oh, okay. All right. Not too far.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I think I just, like I said, there's so many times where it's like you should just do this one thing and do only that. And that's the advice I would give anybody. But
Yeah.
for me, I'm just like, I want to do it all.
But you're also doing some designs on like tiny homes. You're building your own house right now.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole new endeavor for you.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think like when I first started, I was honestly the happiest I've ever been was building little tiny houses and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Like you built it.
Yeah, I did. I had to kick out my crew on the first tiny house I ever built. I was told it was going to cost $40,000, but I didn't get another contractor quote in LA.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. So I went and got a private loan for $45K, and I was like, I'll get an extra $5K and I'll get nice tile if I want to.
Yeah.
But what happened was that contractor was just trying to like provide for his team. So he's like, yeah, I think like 40 grand. And you know, if you've ever talked to a good contractor and you're like, hey, how much is it going to cost to do this? A good contractor says, I don't know. I have to go see.
Yeah,
and I have to
gotta
like
scope
quote
it
it out. No one's ever been like, oh, about like 7,000. Like no one has ever done that if they're good. I was like, great. He like told me what I wanted to hear. So like 4 months in, I'm like calculating quickly that I have like $4,000 left or whatever. And there's only like, we barely got the drywall in. So I had to go in and say, love you, but you got to go, you know, and I kicked everybody out and I finished that tiny house. I did the stained concrete floors. I put the laminate floors in. I painted it. I installed the cabinets. I did the finished electrical, plumbing. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did because that basically taught me how to do that stuff. And so now, a contractor can't BS me.
Yeah. So what's it like going from being in the tiny home niche to then buying a mansion in Scottsdale with 3 pickleball courts? And like they're so different.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like, did you ever feel like you had to, like, no jokes or all kidding aside, like, be boxed in?
Yeah, a little bit, but not really. I think people were just always interested in like my crazy ideas. So I was building tiny homes, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to quit my job, and I'm going to move to Tennessee to build a tiny house village. Move there for a year. Did not build the village because permitting took like a year.
Yeah.
And but people always they're like, dude, you're a regular guy, trying to achieve your dreams.
Try crazy things.
Yeah, and that's what I keep doing. And so at the end of the day, like, it's like I don't want to lose money or ever fail, but if I do, it's like I always say, I learned the hard way so you can learn the easy way to my audience, right? So I just do everything now. That dome home that I bought in Colorado is like crazy. But if I'm being honest, I really miss tiny homes. And so at this point, the returns aren't as good as like focusing on other aspects, but the happiness returns are high. And so I just want to like go and build more little crazy things.
I wonder like if it would pencil out to build a community of just like boxable homes.
Yeah.
You ever run the numbers?
It would. I mean, it kind of depends because it's like if you're really trying to pencil something out, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath is always going to make more money than a tiny house 1-1.
Right.
And from a efficiency standpoint, it's going to cost a lot less too. If you build a tiny house, people think it's going to cost a tiny budget. It's not true at all because you have your base cost for a driveway, for an AC. Just because you have a tiny house doesn't mean you get a tiny AC system. You just get the smallest AC system that is standard for a house.
Yeah.
You still need to put in the main panel. You still need to put in plumbing and all that stuff. And so my tiny house in Joshua Tree was $165,000. People told me I was crazy. They're like, you're so dumb for spending that much on a 300 square foot home. And I'm like, that's as cheap as I could do it. It is physically not possible unless I do it myself, which I did in LA for $72,000. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to go to an investor and raise the cash and say, hey, I've got this crazy idea.
Building a house twice the size wouldn't have cost much more.
Correct. From a fiduciary standpoint, it makes the most sense to build something that's a better return. So that's why, I'm relatively liquid and I just want to go and build my own tiny houses and fund them myself.
Yeah, because you're not doing them strictly from an ROI perspective.
Not really.
You're going to get a lot of content out of it. You enjoy it.
Correct.
Like, I think, honestly, by the benefit we have as social media guys is that the content you get from it can make you the ROI.
Absolutely, man. Like, if I launched a tiny house course, I'm sure that would be a 7-figure business for me if I really, really wanted to do that. Because of the content would definitely get views. It would go viral on TikTok and all that stuff. So, I mean, it pencils out in the long run. But even with that said, it still pencils out. Like that tiny house I built, I put the slide up in the presentation, cost me $165K. In the 2.5 years that I've owned it, I've grossed $194,000.
Right.
So it's it's already paid for itself, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I still have the mortgage on it, but theoretically it's paid for itself.
Right. So what's next for you, dude? I mean, like at the end of the day, is the goal to, are you still passionate about making videos? I mean, now you're a lot more advanced in business. You've got different things happening. You've got commitment with bigger pockets and, but to me, when I first hear your story, it's like the passion was doing DIY videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, where is that today?
Well, as soon as the YouTube thing took off, the passion was definitely there. Like, that was it. It's kind of funny though, because once you figure out how to monetize YouTube and actually make money doing YouTube outside of like AdSense, it becomes more work than passion. And so the passion has been taken out a little bit in that 90% of my videos are like talking head behind a desk. But the most fun I ever had was like carrying a camera around and a tripod and walking through my tiny houses and filming that process. So I can get the passion back really easily, and that's why I want to do more flips and more wholesale deals and stuff like that in Houston, because I just want to like get back in the field.
Yeah.
I want to get back in the field and feel alive again, Ryan.
Yeah.
But really like that's what it is. Like I just got to get out from behind my desk, because what people don't know about being a creator is that it's a really lonely place. Like if you're like, they're like, man, you're out in the world. I'm like, actually, no. I'm behind my desk like 90% of the week. You know what I mean? Like just answering emails, like doing
Do you
Zoom
still edit
calls.
your own videos?
No. I have a full-time
good.
editor now.
All right, good.
And actually an associate editor now. And that's my biggest bottleneck. I could just probably hire twice as many editors and then do more content.
Yeah.
But then it becomes so businessy that it's like, where's it's not as fun anymore. So I'm trying to figure that part out. Like, what can I do that's fun content? Because the talking head stuff is fun and it is the bread and butter and pays the bills. But actually, like going out and shooting vlogs and stuff, like that's what made me happy.
Yeah.
So what do you think? This is something I'm wondering about, and this is a selfish question since I'm getting ready to move into a new house, maybe one day if it ever gets done. You know, I'm looking at moving into a new house, and my old house is, well, not my old house, my current house is perfect for an Airbnb. I got
beautiful house. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a sick pool,
the basketball court,
a movie theater, everything's sick.
Yeah.
And no HOA.
Right.
So the problem is Las Vegas is not sick with Airbnbs. They won't let me do it. It would crush as an Airbnb. My question is, have you done corporate rentals and things like that?
We have, but it's still through the Airbnb platform.
Okay.
And you could set a 30-day minimum.
Right.
And so we've gotten a lot of, I think being in like one of the entertainment, capital of the world, and, with all the sports and stuff, it's likely that you could attract some, athletes or actors and things like that are willing to pay, let's just say double the fair market rents. And if they paid that, like, let's say the fair market rent, there's $3,000. If you got $6,000 a month, I mean, that'd be great. You just would have to set it up as a 30-day minimum.
Right.
And I think that could be a great way to test it, because it could be something that once you do 30-day plus, you could do that anywhere, right? It's not considered short-term rentals anymore.
100%.
So you don't have to worry about regulation.
Even with
you don't have to worry
HOAs.
about permits. Yeah, even with HOAs. So that would be, I think, something great to test, especially with the quality of the property, the quality of your neighborhood. I've seen the YouTube videos where you show the neighborhood, these multi-million-dollar properties across the street. Be a great something to test the waters on.
Well, and the only reason I'm thinking about it, so, I've got a good sized rental portfolio here in Vegas. None of them are Airbnb or corporate rentals because I buy them just normal, and I'm like, I don't really care. I just want to keep them for the long haul. But my house is already furnished and like ready. I'm not going to take the furniture with me. We got all new. So I'm like, I might as well just rent it this way.
It'd be great, Wayne. Test the waters.
Yeah. If you guys are listening and you want to just like see how this goes, comment below, because I honestly, just even for content, like let's just see how it rents out.
Test it out.
Yeah. My mortgage is, I want to say $4,500. And so, I mean, me looking at it, the thing's got to get at least 10,000.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's 10,000 divided by 30? It's like $333 a night.
That's cheap. Yeah.
How many bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage?
3,000 square feet.
Bro.
What should it get? What do you think? Dude, it's by the strip. So.
Dude. I mean, I would put it up probably for like 400 a night.
Yeah.
Just to make it like attractive. Because then it's only $12,000 a month to have a luxury, furnished, beautiful home in a great neighborhood.
And my mortgage is $4,500. Dude, I'll make a killing.
You'll hit that rule of making $2 more, $2 for every $1.
It'll be 3x almost
3x. Yeah, it's like 2.5 times.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I'm gonna do it with the caveat of if my house ever gets done and I move. So we're gonna make YouTube on it. Just see what happens.
Yeah.
It'll be cool, and I'll pick your brain on it because I mean, obviously I've done Airbnb, but corporate rental side I've never done. Have you seen these websites and just different things where you pursue the corporate rentals? Like you try to go to these companies that are like relocating people and all that?
Not too much, because they all come through Airbnb. So like I've had a ton of relocation, when I mentioned the government bookings for political asylum, the corporate bookings, and they all come through Airbnb because that's where all the inventory is, right? That's where the majority of the market share is. So again, I think just putting it on Airbnb, I think that the best marketing to do for Airbnb is having a marketable property in a great location. Your property's in a great location, it's marketable, and I think you will attract those bookings through the Airbnb platform. Now, there is websites like corporatehousing.com, which is for corporate bookings. And then there's Furnished Finder, which attracts nurses who are traveling for work. And there's a ton of them out there. And I think it'd be great to get your assistant to put them on all the platforms and just manually adjust the calendars and block whenever it gets booked somewhere else. But
But from what you're saying, it's like Airbnb is enough. It will just get all those people.
It has been for me. I don't have websites. I don't have I don't do any social media for the Airbnbs. It's just I feel that having a marketable property in a great location is the best marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're going to get better tenants too.
Absolutely.
In those ones. You know, like people aren't going there for one night to party. It's like, and I want to live here for the next 30, 60 days.
Yeah, the people who are paying $12K to stay for a month, they're not going to not take care of your property. You know, you're attracting more affluent people.
Well, and it just makes the management way easier.
Absolutely.
You don't have to do cleanings.
Yeah. So it could be that perfect hybrid model between short-term and long-term.
Yeah.
Then whenever you have some vacancy on some of these multifamily deals, you could test out this corporate model for 30-day plus too.
Yeah, it's true. But if you own the entire apartment,
right?
Like who makes the rules?
Yeah.
You know, I've actually had people say that with just different deals. You know, it's harder with a giant complex to do this, but like, yeah, you know, this is going to be, I'm buying this 10 unit apartment, 20 unit, and I want to make them all Airbnbs. I'm like, that's totally possible.
Yeah.
You make the rules. You've got the you're just running a mini hotel at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that's cool. What are some things people need to look out for with Airbnb that maybe aren't so apparent right away?
I would avoid properties that are on main streets. Personally, I've had them before. I've owned property that were on a main street and we got a lot of complaints. Families didn't feel safe. Their kids playing outside when there's like a main street. Plus it's really noisy, a lot of dust. So I would avoid properties on main street. Personally, I don't think they're good to just hold in your portfolio long-term anyway. So I try to really stick to nice residential neighborhoods where it's just safe for the kids to play outside. And something that could be overlooked is having properties that are near a train track.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I've experienced this before where, you know, somebody checked into a property that we had that was near a train track and they were super tired. And all of a sudden you hear the train coming a couple times a day, which is just crazy, but it happens. So I would avoid properties like that. The other thing, especially on the arbitrage side, you got to make sure that the property's renovated because you're not going to renovate a property that you don't own. I don't feel like that really makes sense. Especially like what if you do only have it for a year, right? You don't want to invest capital to something you're not going to own long term. So if you're in the arbitrage strategy, make sure the property's renovated. Super important. The other thing is I believe that when people book Airbnbs, it's really for two reasons. One, let's say you're hosting, you know, the Future Flipper Mastermind and someone stays at an Airbnb only because it's close to the event. And the other reason is because they want to have an experience in the home without needing to leave the home, right? That's what I call like a staycation experience. That's why our properties actually did good during the pandemic because they had a lot of most of my properties, all my properties actually have pools, spas, game rooms.
Yeah, I like it.
And so if you could do both where you're in a really good location and be able to create a staycation experience, those are the best types of Airbnbs.
Yeah, no, 100%. What do you suggest these people do who are just trying to get started, right? Like, how do they furnish it? How much should it cost? All that stuff. How do they go about it?
So it's funny when you talk about balance transfers because my last job was at B of A back in like 2008, and I was a mortgage banker. So I would help people with loans, purchases, refis, HELOCs. But when people wanted to apply for credit cards, we'd always do these balance transfers, right? For anybody that doesn't know, that's where you transfer money from your credit card into your checking account, typically at 0% interest for 21 months. And I think that's a great way to leverage, you know, OPM, the bank's money, to then pay for the first month deposit and even for the furniture and just take the cash flow from the Airbnb to pay off the credit card. And it's like you never had to use your own money.
Yep.
That's super powerful, right? This is truly how the wealthy operate. Like we still don't use our money, even though we have it, because you just can do infinite amount of projects.
Right.
So I think that is something that people should look into. So if they can get a personal loan, a business loan, a balance transfer, private money, or bring in a capital partner.
Right. No, I 100% agree. I think the balance transfer is a great tool. It's obviously how I got started flipping houses. You know, I recently, I mean, not recently, but I heard about it within the last year of a website called Plastic, which is really cool. For those you don't know, I think it's spelled PLASTIQ. Plastic should also sponsor this podcast.
They should.
But essentially, they'll just give you cash for something. Like, so you just put your credit card in for whatever, it's 10 grand. They'll charge the credit card, and then you can send cash to wherever. So it's crazy.
Really? I'm going to look into that.
Yeah. Yeah, check it out. It'll
Plastic.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's a great resource for students, great resource for, I mean, house flippers too. If you got credit cards and you're like, man, I got to pay my contractors, or, I've got, I need some more cash for a down payment or something, and you've got a big line of credit, you can use plastic. They're going to charge you a fee,
Right.
but
they give you the cash.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's legit. That's awesome. I like that. That's a great way to leverage credit cards.
Oh, 100%. And I'm surprised it took this long for a company like that to come out, because when I was first, got into flipping houses, what I did was, I ordered all these credit cards. I did a balance transfer on many of them, but there was like one that didn't have a balance transfer. It just wasn't a thing. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start a PayPal account, and I'm just going to PayPal myself money. Like, I'm just going to pay myself. And that was what I did. I didn't even know it was like against their terms. And then they flagged my account. They're like, dude, you can't pay yourself, with funds. I'm like, what do you guys care? You made your freaking like percent.
Yeah.
But I got the money, but they shut down the account.
Wow.
So, but plastic solves a lot of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Anytime you could leverage money to do more deals, that's just great. Because again, at some point, it doesn't matter what you're doing, right? Wholesaling, flipping, Airbnb, at some point you're going to run out of money and then you can't do deals anymore. So I believe everyone should really make an effort. Like, how do I leverage other people's resources?
Yeah, no, 100%. So I think, obviously we talked a lot of stuff about Airbnb. Obviously you have your coaching and everything else. And I think, we're going to film some stuff for an upcoming webinar you have that kind of goes a lot more in depth about how somebody can get started. When is that webinar going to be?
We do them once a month, so it'll be every month going on. But for the next one, it'll be around the September 22nd, September 20th, whatever that Tuesday is, and then we'll be doing it every month.
Yeah, let me look on my calendar right now. So it's going to be on this whatever Tuesday here of September. So September 20th.
September 20th.
So guys, highly encourage you guys. We'll put a link to it down below on this podcast to attend Jorge's webinar, September 20th. You gotta
roll your R, bro.
Jorge. Yeah, September 20th for his webinar. It'll be amazing. But yeah, dude, look, I know there are a ton of Airbnb guys out there. There's a lot of ways to learn this business. I think it's a business that is going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
A ton of our students at Future Flipper, Airbnb. And I think for me anyways, just having experience in it, the biggest thing is just for me, like the biggest headache has been regulation.
Right.
I think that's the first thing everyone should look at. And even if regulations maybe not in your favor, maybe like you're like me, you're in Las Vegas and it's like, you can't do it, period.
Right.
You have multiple options. You can say, well, I'm going to go to a market that's close. For me, I chose Big Bear because it was a great market. But you could also do the 30-day plus thing.
Right.
And I'm going to attempt that. I know people in Vegas who are doing it very well.
Right.
But there's lots of ways to make money with this. And my prediction is that these cities will come around to it.
Yeah.
I think that it's just like with any tech, how everybody always fights. The status quo will always fight tech. It's like the taxis fighting Uber.
Right.
It's all the same. The hotels are fighting Airbnb. They will lose.
Yeah.
You cannot stop something that has that much momentum, especially when the city can make so much money.
So much money.
Dude, these taxes and everything.
Taxes, local businesses.
Yeah.
All of it.
It creates jobs. It's just a good thing for the economy overall. So I don't foresee cities being able to stop it. They can limit it, but it's going to, like, I envision Vegas getting more accepting as time goes on.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Thanks for making it to the end. The good news is I've got another one that I know you're going to like, and all you got to do is click it right here. Linking it right here. All you got to do is just click it, and you're going to see this new episode that you're going to love.
It took some time. Like, it was definitely something, the under the wing type of feeling is good at first. It's very comforting.
I think everyone needs a mentor. If it's your dad, it's even better.
Right. But at first, it's super comforting to be insulated with that. And then you progress to a point where it's a hindrance.